Any health-related information on the following show provides general information only. Content presented on any show by any host or guest should not be substituted for a doctor's advice. Always consult your physician before beginning any new diet, exercise, or treatment program.
Welcome to Accelerated Health Radio and TV. I'm your host, Sarah Banta. I'm a health coach, natural supplement expert, and a busy mom of 3. Make sure you hit the subscribe button below so you're notified every week of my new podcast, Mondays and Tuesdays. And if you haven't already, join my free group coaching on Telegram with the link below. I teach you on a daily basis with the tips and tools to enhance your health, and you'll be a part of a like-minded group to support you on your journey in addition to truly taking control of your health. Today, we are talking about a topic that affects most everyone. I would be very surprised if this doesn't affect you. Is caffeine good or bad for you? Let's get the facts. So many people cannot go without their morning cup of coffee or their midday energy drink. In fact, 90% of you enjoy caffeine daily. So it begs the question, is caffeine good for you? And the answer isn't that simple. That's why we're going to talk all hour about it. Caffeine tastes bitter and generally isn't something most people intake and initially say, oh, I love the taste of it, like sugar or salt. It is bitter, but the feeling of that reward of consuming caffeine causes the brain to prefer and crave it. That craving for caffeine is subconscious. So it plays with your dopamine, and you've heard me talk about dopamine. You've heard me talk about addiction. And is there a relationship with dopamine and addiction? Absolutely. But there are ways to enhance mental and physical health and performance with caffeine strategically while minimizing the negative side effects. So that's what we're going to talk about. I'm not taking away your caffeine. I'm not telling you to stop drinking your coffee in the morning. I have my coffee in the morning. Sometimes I play around with not having it and maybe just having some herbal tea, but we're going to get into that in a minute. So is caffeine a drug? Yes, caffeine's a drug found naturally in plants because it stimulates the central nervous system and speeds up the messages throughout the body. It's considered a stimulant. So we're going to talk about the benefits. Number 1, expedited response time. And you all know that feeling. It can help improve your response time during a certain task, or accuracy improves if you're tired and you have to go drive, and having a cup of coffee is going to help your driving. I want you to be having your caffeine before you get in a car next to me on the road. It stimulates the neuromodulators to improve focus and reaction time. It increases dopamine and acetylcholine. So when you pair caffeine with a certain activity, it increases the reward and motivation neuromodulators that increase motivation, alertness, and feelings of well-being. So this helps improve that clarity of thought, flexibility of thought, and because of this, it reinforces engaging in that activity. This is different from how drugs, sex, and other stimulants work in the reward system or center of the brain. Caffeine targets that part of the brain responsible for focus and clarity of thought. And so it increases the dopamine receptor sites in all areas of the brain, enhancing dopamine activity beyond just the area of the brain responsible for focus. So in other words, when you pair caffeine with an activity, you're going to then want to do that activity again, right? So when you feel caffeine feels not just great, but it feels even better than great, and more dopamine activity is occurring. It's going to help improve your mood. It has a psychostimulant effect, improving the mood, and has an antidepressant effect. And like I mentioned, it reinforces that activity. So caffeine makes you feel better away from the taste. As a result, when you pair that caffeine with a particular exercise, like like exercise, or like writing an essay, something that you don't necessarily want to do, or a social event or learning, you will start craving that activity. When I wake up and I have my cup of coffee and I drink it during my workout, I'm actually starting to look forward to my workout. This is where it can help benefit, and you stack these different biohacks for health in order to improve your overall health. And then that caffeine is actually a good thing that you've added into your life. It acts as an antagonist to adenosine. What is adenosine? So when you wake up and you feel groggy, that's the adenosine. It causes that sleepiness that we normally feel without caffeine. Caffeine reduces the sleepiness and fatigue from adenosine by blocking the adenosine receptor sites. Essentially, you're borrowing energy against your body's natural system. And when the caffeine wears off, you'll have a backlog of adenosine, causing that caffeine crash. So, this is where you need to start playing around with it and tweaking things. And we're going to talk about that in a little bit. You're manipulating your energy and adenosine levels with caffeine. And if you're able to have a good night's sleep, which I will be going into my sleep hacks, and my sleep is in the 95 plus range every single night. So adenosine will be low, and then this isn't an issue. If you have a chronic poor sleep issue, caffeine is only making the adenosine buildup get larger and larger, causing a bigger deficit in energy. Caffeine also improves mental and physical performance. We've kind of touched on this, but it helps with response time, alertness, focus, physical dexterity, endurance, exertion, and memory. It improves that dopamine release during the activity, which increases your enjoyment of the task and making it more likely that you're going to return to that task and build upon your heightened performance during that initial activity. So say we use the caffeine to work out, we have a better workout, we feel better during that workout, we get more out of our workout, we then return to our workout the next day because we enjoyed it. Now we're able to build on the muscle and endurance that we've gotten from that experience. Or maybe it's just being more social and going out and having a social experience. Well, we felt good during that social experience. We strengthened our social muscle for all of us people that love to be hermits in our homes. And then you actually want to be more social again. So there's this buildup and this biohacking where you're topping off these different activities together, then strengthening the physical, the emotional, the mental muscles in your body. Caffeine also may alleviate asthma. We should not be using caffeine to replace any asthma medication or supplements, but it does help alleviate asthma. So if you get in a spot where you're having an asthma attack and you don't have anything else with you except for maybe a cup of coffee, you could try using that. It also may help prevent dementia, Parkinson's, and Alzheimer's. Who knew, right? So this is long-term benefits for caffeine. It's known to increase the dopamine receptors in addition to increasing the neurotransmitters that are related to these cognitive diseases. And as a result, it's showing promise to prevent cognitive decline. But how much caffeine is dangerous? I just had on went over my DNA results on the podcast, and it was showing that I have a decent ability to process caffeine. So that's genetic based. A lot of people cannot process caffeine very well. So you have to look at your ability to get that caffeine broken down in the body. How does it break you down? How do you feel when you drink caffeine? So this is definitely individual, and you need to take a look at how you feel and what your reactions are. Caffeine intake at a high level can be dangerous. So for all people, it's different. And it also not only depends on your genetics, but depends on your weight, the amount you're taking, and your other life stressors. So sometimes in your life, it might be fine. Sometimes it just might throw you completely off. So let's go through those. The dose, some people have genetics that can't break down the caffeine like me as much. So I'm good with 1, maybe 2 cups of coffee. That's it. You give me a monster drink, I might have a heart attack. So I stay way away from anything stronger than coffee. Body weight also is to be taken into consideration. It's recommended not to exceed more than 1 to 3 milligrams per kilogram of weight. Furthermore, if you don't use it regularly, it's recommended you start out slow. It's kind of like alcohol with a tolerance. If you're not used to it, start out slow. You're going to get a lot for a bang for your buck when you have a smaller dose. You might get the jitteries. Feeling jittery is one of the most common negative side effects to caffeine. And if you consume caffeine on an empty stomach, it will increase that level of jitters that you experience. And then you have that afternoon crash. The afternoon crash that comes with caffeine consumption is caffeine's second most common negative side effect. And typically people ingest caffeine right away in the morning and have that crash that then encourages them to have more in the afternoon. Then what happens? This will typically disrupt their sleep, and then they don't sleep and they wake up tired. They increase the adenosine in the morning, then they need more coffee, and it's this vicious cycle. So we need to stop that. So we need to get our sleep in check. We need to figure out how not to have that afternoon crash, which I am going to give you at the end in my tips. But there is that relationship where one thing leads to another, and we don't want to be disrupting our sleep. Stress. If you're under excess stress, which most right now, caffeine can increase anxiety and those feelings of stress. And if you are caffeine adapted or not, so caffeine increases your heart rate and makes you more anxious. So if you are not caffeine adapted, meaning that you have not been used to drinking caffeine, you should lower your dose or abstain from the caffeine altogether if you're feeling that heart rate or the anxiety after you drink it. And so many people are suffering from anxiety. So definitely take note if that's you and how you're feeling after you have your cup of coffee or whatever type of caffeine you're taking. It may increase your anxiety. And like I mentioned, disrupted sleep. So depending on your level of chronic stress and how you take the caffeine, it might disrupt your sleep. Many become tired during the day and wired at night. Sleep is the number one factor when it comes to your health, so sleep should never be sacrificed in exchange for caffeine consumption. So I recommend suffering from being totally exhausted without your caffeine in order to get your sleep regulated. The quarter life of caffeine is 12 hours. And that means that 25% of caffeine that you drank is bioactive 12 hours later. And this is why caffeine later in the day will disrupt your sleep. So you want to make sure you have it only earlier in the day. Now, something that no one realizes, it actually diminishes insulin sensitivity. So by using caffeine, your insulin resistance increases, insulin sensitivity decreases by 15%. Now, this is only transitory, but it is a consideration if you have insulin resistance already. And the other thing to think of, if you are drinking caffeine while having sugar, it's going to increase that spike of sugar. So I highly recommend never pairing the caffeine with sugar. And what else would that be doing? It would be reinforcing you eating sugar, because the caffeine makes you feel so good when you have the sugar. Let's have the caffeine when we're intermittent fasting, when we're taking our accelerated keto, or when we are eating our high wild animal protein, or the foods that we want to encourage. I've got some vegans out there that say they can't eat protein or animal protein because of the texture or the feeling in their mouth. Maybe combine it with caffeine. They love their caffeine, and it makes them feel good. Let's pair it with whatever food or behavior we want to encourage. So you definitely want to stay away from having the caffeine with your sugar. So no more donuts and coffee in the morning. That's also going to increase that insulin resistance even more. It also may cause low muscle growth. An increase in cortisol from the caffeine may inhibit the muscle growth. And as I've talked about, it's very difficult to grow muscle after the age of 40, especially for women in their perimenopause and menopausal age, but men too. As they get older, that muscle growth is very important. So you want to take a look at your caffeine and your muscle and if it's affecting it. But I'm going to talk about tips in a minute about your muscle growth, that we can combat that with the intake of caffeine. So caffeine and blood pressure. Caffeine may cause a short but significant increase in blood pressure. And this response to caffeine is different in all people. So let's talk about the myths about caffeine. And a lot of these are really fun because we've talked about them in our own household. Does caffeine cause osteoporosis? Although it can extract calcium from tissues, because caffeine is acidic, right? So anytime your body is dealing with something acidic, including just being stressed, that will cause acidity in your body. Your body uses calcium as the most alkaline mineral in the body, and that's in your bones, to take that out of the bones and use it to balance the pH. Because if our pH gets too acidic, even just by the littlest tiny bit, we die. So we will do everything in our power to keep that pH in the small range in our blood. So caffeine is acidic. Calcium is seemingly related to osteoporosis. There's a weak link showing caffeine can cause bone loss. Bone loss has a lot to do with strength training, overall diet, and hormones. It's not just about taking a calcium supplement. That is not a direct correlation. That is kind of like saying, if I eat fat, I'm going to get fat. It doesn't work that way. Our bodies are a lot more complicated than that. So just by taking a calcium supplement, you're not going to build your bones. You need to have strength training, high wild animal protein, vitamin D, vitamin K, all of the good vitamins in order to build strong bones. I will be talking about that in a few weeks as well. But caffeine won't have a significant impact on the risk of osteoporosis. You need to look at your stress levels, your diet, and overall strength training more so than the caffeine intake. And if you are drinking caffeine that's encouraging your weight-bearing exercises, then guess what? You're actually going to improve your bone density from the strength training more than any detriment that the caffeine's doing to your bones. Okay, does caffeine affect your hormones? There's not really a strong correlation between caffeine and its impact on testosterone and estrogen in men and women, but there is a slight increase in SHBG, which is sex hormone binding globulin. And this binds to sex hormones like testosterone and low free testosterone and makes them not usable. So you can have a high testosterone number, but then low free T. And that's very common in men, and they don't get the muscle mass they want. They're starting to put on the body fat. That could be from a high level of SHBG from other things in the body, from the spike protein, from the wrong diet, not enough muscle mass, or not enough strength training, too much stress. That's where the SHBG fixer comes in, where it binds up the SHBG. But caffeine can be a contributor to increase that number. The level's not that significant, but if high SHBG is an issue, caffeine should be a consideration, and you should look at that. Does caffeine make you short? Oh my goodness, this has been a huge topic in my house with all three of my kids. I do not recommend caffeine for anyone that is less than at least 17 or 18 years old, because you are not done with your growth yet, right? And although this is a common myth and there's no scientifically valid evidence to conclude that caffeine can affect your height or growth, why chance it, right? It's like the people that say it's okay to drink alcohol when you're pregnant. It's not going to do anything to your baby. How do you know how smart that baby would have been if you abstained from alcohol, right? So you don't know how tall you were going to be if you abstain from caffeine. So that has been a topic of conversation in my house, because my kids all want to be as tall as they can be for athletics and just, in general, I guess. But is there any evidence behind this myth? Not really, very limited. The misconception may be connected to the relationship between caffeine and osteoporosis, and the fact that loss of bone could lead to that short stature. Sorry about the beeping. I don't know how to turn that off during this right now, but we'll take care of that for the next time. Consuming caffeine for the maximum benefits. So how are we going to tweak and biohack with our caffeine intake to make ourselves get the most of it without the side effects? Let's delay the caffeine intake. So if you delay the caffeine consumption by 20 to, or I'm sorry, 90 to 120 minutes after waking, you may not experience that afternoon crash and experience steady energy. If you are used to consuming caffeine right when you wake up, try to cut that intake in half and save the other half about an hour later. I do love that caffeine feeling right when I wake up, the taste of that warm drink, but I try to sip on it slowly, and I use half of it during my workout. And that way I'm actually getting a boost during my workout, connecting that with my activity to enhance my craving for the actual workout the next day. And then I don't have the afternoon crash. So that's where you're essentially stacking caffeine on top of the cortisol peak to increase alertness and mood. Now, you also want to pair this with viewing morning sunlight, and this can increase the peak of cortisol pulse by 50%. 50. This not only increases your mood and alertness, but also wipes out the lingering adenosine that causes that feeling of fatigue. On the other hand, if you wake up and immediately consume the caffeine without the sunlight, you're blocking that adenosine receptor. And because of the indirect effects of caffeine on the cortisol system, you are reducing the clearance of adenosine. So I always try to go outside, look in the sun, and then start to drink my coffee. You literally feel this waking up, and I feel the adenosine kind of go away. It's actually kind of magical. Exercise. This will help eliminate the adenosine and spike the cortisol in the morning. And if you exercise right when you wake up and consume caffeine right away as well, without the 90 to 120 minute delay, that energy to work out is optimal, but there may be a bigger energy crash in the afternoon that we need to look at. And we'll touch on that in a minute. So you also can use intermittent fasting. By intermittent fasting and consuming the caffeine, you'll be able to consume less caffeine and still get the optimal benefits. Caffeine and fat burn. This is fun, right? Caffeine enhances fat oxidation. And because of this, you enhance your physical and athletic performance. You also can utilize it as a pre workout. And during that workout, increase the fat burn, especially if you're intermittent fasting. If you're intermittent fasting and taking in your caffeine, you are increasing the fat burn even more. So, what supplements can we use to enhance the health benefits of the caffeine so that you're also not getting the issues of jitters or the afternoon crash? Acceleradine. Acceleradine is the iodine that increases ATP, which is true cellular energy, increases metabolism, and increases fat burning. So you've got a little bit of caffeine to do all of that. Then you've got your ATP production by increasing over 18 times. So you're getting your cells to work harder for you, increasing the fat burning and oxidation at the cellular level. You're getting the short-term energy from the caffeine, but the acceleradine is increasing energy long-term and decreasing the need for as much caffeine. It's also detoxing the brain from heavy metals that cause the brain fog, the slow cognition, and age-related diseases like dementia. It's also known that iodine deficiency leads to depression and hypothyroidism and lower mood. Hypothyroidism is where you just literally can't get out of bed. You're tired, you're moody, you're depressed, you're gaining weight out of no apparent reason. You're hardly eating and the weight's coming on. We are increasing your thyroid health, your endocrine health. You're boosting your immune system. It's known to devitalize all of the foreign pathogens like viruses, bacteria, fungus, and all of those things that could also be slowing down your energy as well. And so when you pair that with the caffeine, you're going to improve your mental and physical energy and mood with the caffeine, and you're able to achieve them probably with less caffeine, but you're pairing it with it so that you actually are increasing your wanting to take your acceleradine as well, right? You start slow with 3 drops in water 3 times a day, but you're going to increase till you get to 25 drops 3 times a day. And you want to keep doing this because of all of the toxicity that is in our world today. And until that gets to a normal level like our ancestors had, we do need to stay on that dose. Now, what's so exciting is the accelerated keto, and why this helps with the caffeine is that number one, flips you into ketosis where you're tapping into your own fat stores within 30 minutes. Your energy supply is endless. On top of that, the additional ingredients in the accelerated keto, include specific types of caffeine that spark steady energy without that afternoon crash, the jitters, or increased anxiety. So the accelerated keto actually helps increase GABA and serotonin and your happy hormones. I feel like my problems are way far away from me. My stress level's better just with the calming effect of the GABA and those sort of things. So it doesn't give you that anxiety that you get from coffee or other caffeines. But we use pure caffeine, the equivalent of a fourth of a cup of coffee, but you get this nice steady energy with no jitters. It's a natural form of caffeine derived from organic green coffee beans, and most keto products contain caffeine to boost the metabolic effects of the ketones, but they use the synthetic forms of caffeine, which then cause the jitters and the dreaded caffeine crash. Because Pure Calf uses the real organic plant made of caffeine with all the natural cofactors, you feel the benefits of caffeine without the side effects of the synthetic caffeine, longer effectiveness, and better absorption. So this is why we need less than a quarter of a cup to get that same effect. But then we combine it with teacrine and dynamine. Teacrine is a patent pending compound that can be found naturally in certain exotic fruits. But what happens, it improves energy, mental clarity, mood, and motivation. It works synergistically with the Pure Calf to provide this unique energy experience where you're just like this and you feel awesome. Your mood is elevated, the depression lifts, you have the energy to go work out and do all that you want to do. While teacrine has molecular similarities to caffeine, the subtle differences have energy boosting effects without the jitters and crashes associated with synthetic caffeine. And then you get that effect to last for hours. You combine it with ketones, where the ketones are burning your own body fat, and your body says, I don't need to eat. I've got thousands of calories in my body to burn. I'm in ketosis. Let's intermittent fast. We don't need to spend any energy on digestion. We're sending all the energy to our brain. It amplifies clarity and mental focus. And then you combine it with the dynamine. And dynamine is structured similar to the teacrine. It's believed to behave in similar ways. It amplifies the feelings of energy, focus, and mood by activating dopamine and other key neurotransmitters, all without elevating blood pressure or heart rate. So what happens if we're activating dopamine? That behavior is encouraged. So when you do the accelerated keto and you have a little bit of coffee, then you go work out, guess what you're going to want to do tomorrow? You're going to want to go work out. And then you're also, when you're on the accelerated keto and intermittent fasting, you're maintaining that muscle mass, because when your body is in ketosis, your body goes straight to burn the fat and maintains your muscle mass. It's going to bypass breaking down the muscle like you do when you're burning sugar or carbs. When you're burning sugar or carbs, and then you go to work out, your body burns through the sugar and carbs and then goes straight for the muscle mass because it looks similar in structure. Okay, so next is the accelerated thyroid. Like I mentioned, if you've got hypothyroidism, which most people do now, unfortunately, especially after the last 2 years and what the spike protein has done to our organs, we are suffering. So the accelerated thyroid is going to boost your energy. It's the most comprehensive thyroid supplement to help optimize your thyroid, metabolism, and energy. And you're going to get increased energy, fat burn, alleviate the mood from caffeine, or that you want from caffeine. And what we've done is we've combined freeze-dried glandular with thyroid-supporting herbs, conchinara mostly, but tyrosine and teacrine to enhance this. And we've enhanced it with scalar frequencies to detox the thyroid from radiation and heavy metals that decrease energy, drive, and longevity. And as a result, we need less of the caffeine. So I don't know if you have noticed in the last 2 years that you need more caffeine, or you're just more tired. The caffeine's not doing what it used to do. That could be a sign that your thyroid is clogged with radiation, clogged with those oxalates that we talk about, or the heavy metals like the fluorine, the bromide, and the chlorine from our food, from the GMOs, and from just the spike protein in general. That's where the accelerated thyroid and the acceleridine work together synergistically to detox the thyroid in all cells of the body to increase cellular energy, brain function, and fat burning. Next is Cognoblast, and it is coming very soon. Cognoblast is the cutting edge natural brain enhancement supplement that is soon to increase your mental focus, energy, learning speed, mood, and memory in the short term, but also protects the brain from memory issues and decline like Alzheimer's, dementia, all those things that we've talked about long term. I will be taking this daily as I have both genes for Alzheimer's. Now, there's a lot of other things you can be doing for this, but this will be a number one factor when it comes to short-term and long-term focus, enhanced mood, mental alertness. It will lessen your need for caffeine and provide that short-term energy for your brain without the jitters and the afternoon crash experienced with caffeine. So you either can take it in the morning for a day of great brain function and feeling good, or you can actually take it 30 minutes before an important task, whether it's a test, a podcast, sitting down to write an article, whatever it is on your plate, you can take it 30 minutes before that. Next is the accelerated salt. So caffeine is known to be a diuretic and deplete you of your electrolytes. And this depletion is what contributes to the afternoon crash, right? So it's essential to have a broad spectrum of electrolytes for your cellular energy. And accelerated ancient salt not only has over 62 minerals for hydration at the cellular level, but it can be used to increase energy when added to drinks and food to combat the caffeine dehydration. So you can even add it to your coffee or drink it with your pre-workout drink if you have your coffee and then you go to work out, or just put it on your tongue right after 15 minutes after you do the acceleradine. It also plumps up the volume of fluid inside and outside the cells, which in turn cleans the liver, induces DNA repair, and detoxes the body. And as a result, cellular energy and physical energy increase, leading to a lessened need for caffeine. People always ask me about the cups of coffee on the Ascent Diet Cleanse when you're working on your liver. Actually, coffee can help cleanse the liver, right? But we need that salt, the accelerated salt, to plump up the cells to cleanse the liver properly. So they go hand in hand. Then with the LifeWave stem cell patches, the energy enhancer, I wear these on my wrist right here. These patches increase your energy and endurance literally within 20 minutes, and then reduces your fatigue, muscle soreness, and increases fat and caloric burn by 300 calories a day. And as a result, the need for caffeine is lessened. You truly do kind of feel this jump of energy, and all of the desired benefits from caffeine are achieved with the energy enhancer patch without the jitters or the crash. They also help with nausea, reflux, improved digestion, strengthening the organs, draining that edema or dampness in the body, or phlegm as they call it in Ayurvedic medicine, and it increases your life force or your chi, your bioenergetic flow throughout the body. So it signals the body to increase beta oxidation in the mitochondria for the fat burning, which is the fastest way to burn fat. Then you add in the X49 patch, and this helps increase endurance and energy, in addition to increasing bone density, burning fat, build muscle, improving cardiovascular health. Really important as we get older to increase that muscle mass, keep that body fat in check, and increase the strength. I noticed a big difference within a week of what I was lifting, the amount of weight I was lifting, the amount of push-ups I could do just from the X49. When I do things or introduce something new, I always do one thing at a time so that I can test whether I really see a difference or not. I want to be able to report back to you, so I make sure that I do that N of 1 biohacking on my body. And I tell you the truth, because honestly, I don't need to talk about any of these things. I only want to talk about the things that work. And X49 has been one of those things that has really made a difference in my muscle building, my fat burning, my bone density, my hair, and returning my hair back to its original color, stopping the gray hairs from coming in. Next, you've got the carnosine patch. The carnosine in general is great for improving strength, stamina, and cognition, things that caffeine can help with, right? People with the Alzheimer's and dementia-prone brains really like the carnosine patch as well. I've got family members with Parkinson's, and they use all of these patches as well as the supplements I'm talking about, because when you've got a disease that is progressing, you want to do everything you can to halt it or reverse that progression. By using the carnosine patch, the need for caffeine is lessened. It also helps repair tissue, muscle tears, tendonitis, tennis elbow, things that caffeine can't say they do. Carnosine is also good for burns, lumps, bumps, clots, bruises, and lacerations. It protects the telomeres, which is known to be associated with aging. And you know that I am into reversing aging, not just shortening or stopping it, but I am into reverse aging. And I use the carnosine patch every single day. It signals the body to make that antioxidant. So it's not transdermal. It is actually signaling your own body to produce it. So in essence, what we've talked about is not just, is caffeine good or bad for you? You need to first look at the dose you're taking. How are you sleeping? How is it affecting your stress level? Could it be increasing your stress and your adrenal burnout and fatigue? Yes. Is a pot of coffee okay for you? No. That's a sign that you need to get off the caffeine and start paying attention to your adrenals, going about getting your energy back in a more holistic way with some of the tips that I've talked about today. I will be talking about sleep, but just getting your sleep score and your sleep in check, you will start restoring the adrenals, where the caffeine then will actually do something good for you. But it will burn out your adrenals, and that is going to have a detrimental effect to your stress level, to the acidity in your body. When your adrenals are stressed and releasing cortisol in a chronic way, they sit on top of your kidneys. Then what happens to your kidneys? Your kidneys get inflamed. When your kidneys are inflamed, they retain water. You might have edema, but you're dehydrated at the cellular level at the same time. And then you think, well, if I'm holding water with edema, I want to actually reduce my water intake. No, not true. You want to increase your salt intake, the accelerated ancient salt, the quintessential 0.9, the Olaloa, the wild lights. Those are always to do it. And with that, you're going to help with the intracellular hydration and reducing the extracellular hydration, which is the inflammation in the body and the edema. And if you've been to Ascent Adaptation with Heather Hineker, she talks about the in-body having the intracellular and the extracellular hydration. And you will also see how that affects your phase angle, which is the rigidity of your cell walls and the ability for your cells to get the toxins out and the nutrients in. That phase angle is an indicator for your risk of cancer and disease. And I can tell you, for me, as I have regulated my sleep and I've regulated my intracellular versus extracellular ratio, my phase angle has improved significantly in a time span that is kind of unheard of. And I haven't even told Heather this, but that intracellular and extracellular ratio is really important to your cellular health and your energy. So in essence, you want to work on hydrating your cells with the accelerated ancient salt, the quintessential 0.9, the Olaloa, and the wild lights, and making sure you're drinking enough water. Yes, of course, but you don't hydrate your body without the minerals. Because remember, that caffeine is depleting your body of minerals. What else depletes your body of minerals? Sugar, processed foods, the glutens, the grains, the oxalates, the sulfur that is backing up your liver. all of those things are making your liver and your digestive system work too hard, stripping them away of the minerals they do have, and then inhibiting their ability to actually absorb the minerals that you're taking in. So what does this mean? This means, let's say you have a healthy vegetable salad with some healthy vegetables that don't have oxalates or sulfur, but you've got some croutons in there, and maybe you've got some corn and some almonds full of oxalates, and then you've got some kale mixed in there that's killer kale, and you've got the kale that's got the sulfur and the oxalates. That is ripping apart your gut, backing up your liver. And so your body's not even taking in the nutrients from the healthy vegetables in the salad. So it's all very important to make sure that you're doing all of these things in conjunction with the having your caffeine to get the most out of it. Because if you're just doing the caffeine for the energy, number one, you're going to get a caffeine adapted, and then you're going to need a bigger dose to feel the same effect. What we also want to make sure that you talk about, that we're addressing, is when you take caffeine, say you take it daily, it loses its effect. Stop taking it for 5 days. On that 6th day, you're going to see that bump in energy from the caffeine as well. So you can use caffeine very strategically in a very healthy manner. If you have any questions, you always know where to find me. But thank you again for joining me today. If I can help you with any of your health issues, you can contact me directly through the website, sarahbantahealth.com. I'm happy to put together a protocol for you. Join the free group coaching on Telegram with the link below. There is no downside. I teach you on a daily basis with tips and tools to enhance your health, and you will be a part of that like-minded group to support you on your journey, in addition to truly taking control of your health. You can follow me on Facebook and Instagram under Accelerated Health Products, and across over 100 podcast channels under Accelerated Health Radio and TV, including YouTube, Stitcher, Pandora, iTunes, or whatever podcast platform you subscribe to. Please hit the subscribe button and share with a few of your friends who may need my help. As you do, I'm then able to bring you more content to this show. And join me every week, Mondays at 2 p.m. Pacific and Tuesdays at 1 p.m. Pacific. You can find the supplements and all of my podcasts on my website, sarahbantahealth.com. Use coupon WELCOME10 for 10% off site-wide. Thanks again for joining us here on Accelerated Health Radio, and have a great week.